Recently, I hit 10 years of language learning. A decade might not be the longest time ever, but for me, it means the half of my entire life. So I feel like in those 10 years, I learned a lot of really valuable lessons that are not all intrinsically about language learning, because anyone can learn more about language learning by learning languages. But I feel like the real talent is being able to gain all that knowledge and applying it to other areas of your life. And that's why in today's video I want to talk about some of the lessons I've learned along the way. And just because I figure out the game of language learning, it doesn't mean that I now have a brain pro max and I can just do anything with no challenges. I feel like some of the lessons in life are meant to be learned over and over again and be repeated until we actually learn them. The first and maybe the most important point that I want to make in this video is that you just have to start doing things. Because before you start doing anything, your brain's going to tell you that you are not ready. Other people are already excelling at this, so no matter how much effort you put, it wouldn't make anything at the end. And also maybe you are going to fail, you're not going to be successful enough. You have all those excuses ready in your brain, but this is your brain trying to protect you from potential failure. And you have to overcome this. 10 years ago, I came back from school. I decided that I wanted to learn a new language, not just a specific language, I just want to learn a language. I downloaded some language apps on my iPad, and then after some testing, I decided to learn French. And I wasn't thinking about all the professional assets that the French language would bring to me. I wasn't thinking about the career opportunities. I was 11 and I didn't know how to learn French. I didn't know anyone who could speak French. So for the first 3 years, I've been really unsuccessful. I didn't learn anything until I was 14, 15. Even then, I wasn't imagining this 21-year-old girl who speaks 10 languages and who makes content about all those different things. When I discovered that I was a polyglot, I could already speak 5 languages, and then one day I stumbled upon this term. A polyglot is someone who speaks multiple languages, and I was okay, so that's what I am. But I was really hesitant to bring this online because maybe people would be you speak multiple languages? Is that even a thing? I hadn't seen anyone like that. So sometimes you just have to feel scared and still start doing things. Sometimes you just don't know where the journey is going to take you, but still you go on that journey. 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago, I started knitting, and this is my first scarf. And actually I was kind of confused about that, because how do you start knitting? Because knitting is not I can read about the theory or I can watch some videos and learn about knitting. No, you actually have to take the yarn and the needles and work on it. So I didn't know what to do, and I watched some tutorials, and they were you should buy some chunky yarn, and also you should buy the necessary needles for that. It's not I bought a whole set of needles, I bought 2. And I tried to cast on something, I tried to make some stitches. I was following that tutorial, and yeah, it turned out really ugly. One day I was no, I'm going to learn this properly, so I watched the tutorial till the end, and I tried again. After 3 days I made this scarf, which looks pretty decent, that I'm probably not going to wear, but still. And then I just made this. This was my second scarf. So if I overcomplicated everything and never started knitting, I wouldn't have those 2 scarves in less than 2 months. Because, it would be oh, knitting is not a summer activity, I shouldn't start doing it now. And then when the winter comes, you would be even if I started now, I wouldn't be able to knit a sweater for this winter. So you are always discouraged by yourself and you are never going to start knitting. So at some point, even if you don't have all the equipments, even if you don't really feel motivated to do that, you should start, because in a year from now, you either have started and you have some progress and you have some lessons learned, or you're still asking yourself the same questions. Honestly, I think a lot of times it's more about how you deal with yourself when you're not instantly good at something. And this requires some personal work, because you cannot instantly decide that you're just going to be nicer to yourself and you are going to accept every imperfection and every mistake. I think this just takes some kind of effort. And that's why I'm partnering with Skillshare for today's video. If you don't know them, Skillshare is a great space for creative skills, so if you like to pick up something new, or if you like to reconnect with a hobby that you used to enjoy in the past, you can take a lot of different creative classes on Skillshare. Recently, I've completed their Inner Critic series, and I feel all of us would find this quite relatable, because we have this voice in our head telling us that what we are doing is not good enough before we have even given a chance to it. And Skillshare just gives you the necessary tools to practice your creativity instead of talking about it. What I like about Skillshare is that classes are taught by actual people who are experts in their files, and now that everything just feels kind of superficial and automated, I feel like this human-led experience is really precious. And the first 500 people to click on this link in the description or scan this QR code on the screen are going to receive a month free trial on the platform. So if you're interested in that, take a look at it, and thanks Skillshare for sponsoring this video. The second point I want to make is that I think Dostoevsky said this: the deepest form of slavery is the hunger for being understood. Like, I think he said that. When you go on a creative journey or when you want to start doing anything, you won't have an army of people cheering for you. Like, you have some supportive people, but it's not like everyone is constantly cheering you up, motivating you and supporting you, and you should be okay with that, because when you're doing something new, you cannot just take everyone with you, and not everyone is going to get the vision, and it's okay as long as you get the vision yourself. So when I started learning languages, people were like, of course, like I was 11 and I want to learn French and it seemed quite useless, so people were like, maybe you should focus on school. So then I learned French. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn Italian. People were like, oh no, you should learn Spanish. Spanish is the most useful language in the world. And then I learned Spanish too, and then I was like learning Russian. People were like, okay, maybe you should try something new. And then when I was learning Finnish, people were like, you know, that's quite useless, go learn Chinese. People always have something to say. When I practice knitting, I often post videos of myself just doing stitches on Instagram. I receive a lot of messages where like, oh my god, that's not how you do it. You know what? Like, I did not build my self-confidence around this. I don't care about this. Like, you can say anything you want. You can say it's ugly. You can say, oh my god, you knit like a toddler. You can say anything. I don't care, because I don't care about this. I also remember that when I first started my YouTube channel, like I had 200 views for the first few months, but I was the biggest YouTuber I knew. Like, I was super confident and I just enjoyed creating, and now I kind of feel sad that I've lost a part of this creativity and self-confidence. So as long as you have this positive self-talk, I think it doesn't matter what anyone else tells you, because you're the person behind all your decisions and actions. Or like last year I was always telling, my Swedish is so bad, my Swedish is so bad. And then I realized that some people adopted this narrative, and when people were talking about me online, some people were like, no, actually her Swedish is kind of bad. It's not like she has a C2 in Swedish. Then I met other Swedish learners and no one was telling, oh, my Swedish is bad. Even though Swedish was the only language they were learning and we were quite at the same level, I was the only one speaking negatively of myself. So you're the first person who has to support you and believe in yourself. My third point for this video is going to be that beautiful and complex things actually take time and you cannot skip the process. I think many people just do not want to accept that, because we are just used to having shortcuts for everything and everything is just overly simplified and we just want to have instant rewards. I think we're just obsessed with results. Like, nowadays everything is so accessible and we can see someone who has a crazy body transformation, or someone who speaks perfect Russian, someone who graduated the top law school, and just because we watched in 30 seconds, we believe that it can be done in 30 seconds. And everyone's like, but how long did that take you to do that? But how much? But how many? I don't know, I don't count. Once someone asked me like, how many months did it take for you to learn Russian? And I was like, I don't know, 53 maybe? I felt like a mom telling the age of their toddler in months. Like, it took me at least 4 years to get any of my C1 certificate, not any less than 4 years, because like I was learning multiple languages. Maybe if I learned only one language it would take less. But it's a question of priorities, it's a question of the choices that you make in your life. So all those good and inspiring things just come with a price that the average person doesn't want to pay, but if you really want to have an excellent result, if you really want to do something valuable, sometimes you just need to change your priorities or make some different decisions, because I feel like success is a result of simple things that are repeated over time. Recently I've been also exercising quite regularly, and I think one thing I realized is that your muscles actually don't grow while you're working out. It's like between the sessions. So if you are learning a language like every 2 weeks for 6 hours, you do not give your brain a lot of material to build on. It should just be constant, small, but really regular work, so that you can actually build something over time. And also, I think an illusion that a lot of people have is that you do not really have to have the full picture in your brain when you're starting to do something. Like, as I said, I didn't know that I was going to become this person when I downloaded language learning apps 10 years ago. I don't know how long I will keep knitting. I don't know where I will be in 6 months. I don't know any of that, but the journey kind of unlocks itself as you go. But Now that I can make this video, I can talk about experiences that I gathered in those 10 years, is because for 10 years I chose doing something instead of not doing anything, or instead of talking about it or thinking about it. I also want to talk about language learning as a mindful hobby, almost like a meditative activity for your brain. Obviously, if you are learning languages with constant pressure, maybe it doesn't feel that grounding, but if you're learning things just because you enjoy learning things, I feel like this is a really healthy dopamine that you can get. And also, I feel like languages have been really helpful for me while dealing with depression and anxiety. Obviously, I do not want to compare my situation with other people who have it much worse and much more serious, but I just want to talk from my perspective. I feel like learning new things, and especially in case of languages, you are getting to know new cultures and new lifestyles. I feel like this is just so healing for your brain because it constantly creates new connections and it introduces you to new parts of the world and new realities, and you just feel like, I don't know, for me it just feels so inspiring. And sometimes I feel like, how do people who never learn languages or who are never curious about other countries or cultures, how can they stay sane in today's world? Language learning just keeps me really entertained, and it gives me a lot of dopamine because it's some kind of novelty, you know? If you have a high functioning brain, or if you are especially neurodivergent, I feel like language learning is quite a grounding hobby for you because you probably constantly need something new, something like cognitive and unknown, and you can also learn languages without taking up your entire brain capacity, so it just feels like a background activity. Like, for example, I often study languages that I don't officially learn, like Norwegian and Danish, and sometimes listening to a Danish podcast gives me more dopamine than listening to an Italian podcast because it's pure novelty for my brain and it doesn't take up my entire cognitive capacity because, like, okay, I don't know this language, but I can partially understand it, you know? As I said, last year I feel like learning Finnish was the best thing I did to myself, not because I mastered the Finnish language, but because it really helped me to give some kind of sense to my days, you know? We all know how beneficial it is to speak multiple languages, and we are not even talking about bilingual people here. It's like living a life with multiple languages. It just does something really different to your brain, and it's quite an experience, honestly. Sometimes I do not even know how to define it because it's my standard, and I do not really remember how life is lived otherwise. I think it just makes you an interesting person overall. I feel like there's this privilege that you carry with yourself wherever you go. And the last life lesson that language learning has taught me that I want to share in this video is that it teaches you how to be nobody. Because I feel like a lot of people are afraid to try new things because their ego cannot handle being bad at those things and not being the expert. And I actually feel like being the expert is a really dangerous space because it can make you feel like your journey is over, and from one side you're just really respected and people trust everything you say and you have all those achievements behind you. Like, you have a set of proofs that you are a successful, a resilient person. And I think that has been a really powerful realization for me because for most of the time I thought of myself as the end product. Like, at 20, your journey is done, I completed my career and my goals are all accomplished. And this is the worst place that you can go because personally, it made me depressed. And recently I've been putting myself in situations where I'm not instantly the best at what I'm doing, like knitting, speaking Finnish. I probably look stupid doing both of those, but I don't care, and it doesn't affect me because my self-confidence isn't built around those things. And also it just teaches me a lot of things, and if I can make this video today about 10 years of expertise, it also means 10 years of failure, 10 years of trial, and 10 years of being humbled. Yeah, this is just a result of boring actions that I kept doing for 10 years. You'll be really bad at things before you become good, and even when you become good at things, it's not where the journey ends. So I think it comes down to that. Do you actually want to do those things over time in order to achieve what you actually really want to achieve? And yeah, you are your first supporter, you are the person that should believe in you the most. And yeah, I think everyone can make their own resolutions from this video and from my journey. I would really like if you gave a chance to language learning. You don't have to learn 7 languages, you can only learn 1. You can be a great German speaker, you can be a great French speaker. We don't all have to become polyglots. That's fine. Hopefully it inspired you to some extent, and let me know what you think. You can also follow me on different social media accounts, and see you in next video. Bye!